It is with great pleasure and pride for me to introduce tonight's presenter, Jan Kelly. Ms. Kelly was born in the city of Liberty Bell and was raised in South Jersey. She is a University of Miami graduate, summa cum laude, and University of Miami Law School, and also from the University of Miami Law School. Ms. Kelly is married with an adult son and daughter in Florida. She has been involved in politics since she was 18 from a local mayoral race. She also was a Capitol Hill legal counsel to Lawyers for Bush and has now served as director of the Montgomery County Board of Elections since 2013. Ms. Kelly is in charge of preparing and conducting all primary, general, and special elections, processing, evaluating, and reporting election results, and filing and preserving all records and reports pertaining to voter registrations and elections. Ms. Kelly previously served as Finance Director for the Board of Elections and as Registration Supervisor. Ms. Kelly, welcome to our September meeting.
Well, thank you. What a warm welcome. And it was nice to see Martin and Lenore. I've been friends with them for, over 20 years since I first moved to Dayton from Fort Lauderdale area. Anyway, good evening, members. And I'd like to start off the meeting and give you a little bit of background on what the board does. And then I'm going to hand over, since you guys are all computer geeks, to our in-house computer geek, Adam Lawson, who was one of the best hires I've ever had here at the Board of Elections, who's helped us out tremendously with cybersecurity and many new mandates that the Secretary of State, former Secretary of State John Husted had started, and now current Secretary of State Frank LaRose has instituted. So let me just give you an idea of what's going on at the Board of Elections right now. There is still in-person voting that is available not only at your precinct at home, but here at the Board of Elections through early voting. And there's also mail-in voting available. We currently have 90,174 applications that we have processed that people have requested a ballot to be mailed by them. That's almost double the amount of people that had requested a ballot in 2016, and we anticipate that number probably to go up to about 135,000 people. And we're excited about that because it will lessen the load on the precincts out there on Election Day and help lessen the number of people coming through the Board of Elections down here to early vote. Because of COVID, social distancing, you can expect lines at polling locations or precincts on Election Day. And I say that, that was kind of verboten before because you didn't want to ever have a line at a polling location. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, social distancing is a requirement, and we can only fit a certain amount of people inside the location. So there probably even will be people waiting outside. I just hope the weather holds up for everybody. Let's see, Tuesday is the first day, next week, Tuesday, October 6th is the first day of early voting, and that also is the first day by law that we are allowed to drop the ballots to the public. We get a lot of phone calls in today, and I was doing the phone bank today. Where's my ballot? I sent in my application a month ago. What are you people doing? Well, we can't send their ballot until early voting starts. So next week, we'll be sending out over 90,000 ballots to those first persons who have requested it. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes because we have to enter all that information, but there's a lot of work that people who are requesting that information need to do. And sometimes they forget to fill in things like their date of birth, their current address. They forget to sign it. So we have to play catch up with those folks. And right now we're down to about 2,800 applications that need cured or corrected, and there's a process we go through. We contact them by phone or by email if we have their contact information, and then if we don't get the problem corrected, we send them a letter, and hopefully they send their information back to us. On Election Day, we've got 143 locations open this year. Remember, during the primary, none of those locations were allowed to be open, so everything was postponed, and the election was held strictly on a mail-in basis only. But this year, all three types of voting are available again. We also have curbside voting for people that have symptoms of COVID or even have COVID under the law are permitted to come in their car, and we have to send our staff out gowned up and masked up to vote those people with those symptoms. However, they will be voted on the curb at the Board of Elections. The heavy emphasis on the PPE equipment was quite expensive for the Board of Elections, but we were able to secure grants not only through the CARES Act, but Mark Zuckerberg offered a grant and we applied for it. We just got a grant. I think it was $572,000 last week of much needed money for staff that we need to hire. We hired an extra probably 25 people when all is said and done. And we're working split shifts now because we can't fit everybody in the Board of Elections with a 6 feet social distancing requirement. We were able to purchase new equipment to process our ballots, which Adam will get into in a little bit. And we were also able to purchase equipment. It's called extractors. So when all those ballots come in, they're opened by the extractor and actually pulled out. So that helps us because we get a tremendous amount of mail in, and it's just a mammoth task to keep everything going. It's really interesting. If you ever like to come down, we can give a tour to your group after the election and show you all the equipment. We have 1,440 precinct election officials that have to be trained and sent to the polling locations to help us out on election day. And the Secretary of State's done a really nice job with asking people to step up to the plate to serve their country. And the citizens have done a great job. We've gotten more than we needed asking to work at the polls. They do get paid, but this group of people is a little different. I noticed during a training class the other night, they're asking a lot of questions. They're not just doing it for the money. They really want to serve, and that was really nice to see. We also are doing an advertising campaign to try and educate the public. There's so many forms of information available. We're trying to reach everybody through Facebook, through Twitter, through billboard advertisements, through some radio and TV spots to let people know what Ohio is doing for the election. So many people sit at home and listen to the news, and they'll hear something like today, a lady was like, North Carolina, something was going on down there. Is that going to happen here in Ohio? You know, my best advice is if you have a question, call the Board of Elections and find out, because there's so much disinformation and misinformation out there being shared or just talked about, it becomes almost a fact to people. And one of the rumors out there that I really hate is election mailing is not safe. It is safe. We have a tremendous relationship with our local post office. They sent, and I think I have it, I don't know if you guys all got a postcard, but they sent a postcard out to people notifying them how they handle election mail. There's colored trays for election mail with a red, bright envelope, election official mail. So they have to have everything cleared out of each local post office every night and delivered to the Board of Elections. So, you know, we call them. There was one Saturday where we were here and the mail wasn't. So we called our local contact and he said, oh, well, nobody showed up for the shift. So he was able to call people and they got to the post office and they got us the mail that day, because, you know, one thing in elections is you can't get behind. You can't buy back any time. It is what it is. And during those last few weeks, it's crucial that we use every second to the best of our ability to get things done and get those votes counted. I'm going to hand this over to Adam a little bit. And Adam, I'm sorry, I didn't give him a bio for you. So maybe you can just introduce a little bit of your background, where you came from, and some of your other interesting facts. I could just tell you working with him has been a dream. I love IT people because they know a lot more than I do and they make my day easier. And I love the fact I interviewed Adam, And one of the things I really loved about him was the way he handles questions from people. I never feel stupid. Um, I never feel like my question is looked at like it's a dumb question or like, how doesn't she know that? She's the director. He always is able to help me and assist me and shares that with the rest of the staff as well. So without further ado, let me introduce Adam Lawson to you, and he will tell you all the stuff you really probably want to hear about of how the ballots are counted and how we do that here at the Board of Elections for probably about 270,000 ballots that will be cast during this presidential election.
Hi, Jan. That was really nice of you. I appreciate that. I will say this just to give everybody a warning. I don't have the experience that Jan does with talking in front of people, so I apologize if I'm not the best. First off, I just want to say, Peter, I actually wrote down that quote you said. We do more than what is obvious, and I just thought that was great. As soon as I heard you say that, I'm like, I just rang a bell with me, and I had to jot that down because that really ties a lot into elections. I've actually only been here. Tomorrow will actually be my 1 year that I started working here for the Montgomery County Board of Elections. And I've learned so much over the past year just with how elections are ran, everything that goes into it, and just how big of a task it really is. You know, when you're just a voter, you know, you show up, you know, you see, you know, people from your, you know, from your community, you go and you vote, and it seems easy. And I was like, okay, so you get like 1,500 volunteers for a day, and then that's it. Maybe there's a couple people, you know, that look after the equipment. And you know, one, they're not volunteers, and two, it takes a lot more than that. It's a huge team effort. Here at the board, what I do is mainly I'm in charge of cybersecurity. I also work on our website. I deal with the infrastructure. I deal with things with the network, day-to-day issues and stuff like that that come up. When it comes to cybersecurity, I know a lot of times it tends to really get romanticized in movies and things like that. What it looks like in reality, honestly, is a lot of updates and a lot of daily maintenance of all of your equipment. And so the best thing that you can do is really just keep track of every single thing that you have and make sure that you're on top of everything. Because what we're seeing from what's being exploited, and I don't know if you've been in the news, we had a major local company that just got exploited for ransomware. A massive hospital organization just got hit with an attack. A very large county school system in Las Vegas got hit. And this is very common. And so a lot of times what you'll find is that someone will have an old piece of software, an old system, and it just takes one entry point, and then that's when people can get in, and that's when they can exploit stuff. And so what I like and what's really nice is the way that elections are set up and the way that election security has been kind of crafted. What our IT architects have done is rather than trying to find the biggest and best lock for a door, what they did is they built a house and didn't put a door on the house. And that's why what you'll see now, and actually it was just, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, the interim director for the Department of Homeland Security, what he was talking about is that the bad actors that we deal with, the other nations, you know, the Russia, China, Iran. So they're the three that are mainly meddling in our election, right? And so they're not attacking the election infrastructure just because it's such a tall task to try and do that because of the way that we're set up. One, it's not centralized. Every county in Ohio has it, and every other state's different, but it's all spread out. It's not centralized. And so you have to then attack every single location, right? And then a lot of it is you have to get past the physical security. And so what Jan said, and something that really gets missed a lot, and unfortunately we don't have enough time, energy, and resources to put towards it, but it's all the misinformation that's out there. And so, and that's where you see these other countries, Russia, China, and Iran. That's what they're doing. You know, you see a million stories on Facebook, and you don't know what's true. You know, everything's kind of taken out of context. It gets twisted around, and it's very difficult to sift through. And so, it's hard to tell what's real and what's not. And that's kind of the purpose, right? That's their goal. And so, for us, it's, really, we want to try and educate people. We want to try and be as transparent as possible. I think that's why Jan was so excited to have this opportunity for us to talk to you about, what we do to make it as transparent as possible. And just to kind of move along, Jan said we have all these different ways that you can vote, whether it's curbside voting, whether you vote by mail and mail it in, or you vote by mail and then drop it off, you vote on election day, or you come in early. So when those ballots are brought in to us, okay, or put in a drop box or put in a mailbox, they're then secured. Okay, and then once we get them, we have scanning equipment that comes from ES&S. It's a subsidiary company of Diebold, which Diebold makes everything under the sun, cashiers, ATMs, everything. And so they've got some really nice systems. Probably my favorite piece of equipment we have, it's a DS850 scanner. And so it's what we use to actually scan all of our ballots. What is it? I was looking it up today, and so they can do, and it's, I'd almost say this is on the low side, but they can do 300 double-sided ballots, 14-inch ballots per minute that they can scan. And like I said, I would say that's even maybe kind of low because we can kick through them pretty good. They have two different types of imaging software that they use to read the ballots, which is pretty neat. One's called P-Track and one's called IMR. So the P-Track, it's a positive target recognition and alignment compensation. So what it is, if you get a mail-in ballot or you see any ballots, you get these little tick marks. They go all the way around the ballot. And so what it does is that, you have a vertical and a horizontal. And those are lined up with every single oval that you can vote in. And so the neat thing is that lets the machine know, the scanner know exactly where the midpoint is of every single oval. And then what it does is it'll digitally erase the oval, and then you're left just with whatever mark the person did or did not put in that circle. And then that's where it comes into the IMR. The IMR is the algorithm and the AI behind it that reads actually what's in there. And so what's nice about that is not only does it look at a pixel count of what is in that area and that oval, but it also looks at the shape of it as well, whether it be a check mark, an X, fill it in an oval. So it's pretty interesting. It's extremely consistent. It's very accurate. And then just watching the machine go is awesome. And so, from that process, it's really nice. It's a really nice, tight, controlled system. When you get out and actually vote, everything's touchscreen, or you can go paper. It's a real nice process. We're not fooling with ink or toner. All our printers are all thermal. It's a very nice system. I'm not exactly sure what kind of information you guys are wanting. Just some of the equipment here that I like. That's probably my favorite piece of equipment outside of maybe our electric paper counter. So we don't have to put them in stacks of 200. We've got a machine that'll do it for us. I didn't know, did anybody have any specific questions or anything that we can kind of talk about and kind of get into? Not sure where the interests are.
Yes, Peter. Let me get my picture up too. I did have a few questions, and we can have other people ask. I had a few prepared questions, but I had, if anybody else would like to ask any questions, please use the Zoom tool. If you do use the Zoom tool with a hands up feature, then that puts everybody's question in order, so I can, so I don't have to look at all the pictures and see your hands waving. And in fact, I wouldn't be able to see all the pictures with your hands waving anyway. There's just too many people up there. So a couple questions. One question that I have, and I've worked the polls, just so you know. I worked the polls with the older machine, and I worked once with this newer equipment. And the newer equipment is wonderful. I'm really impressed with it. In fact, I was trying to get a video of this newer equipment to follow the process, Adam. One question that I have is if you were processing one vote at your location and you had that one vote go through every step along the way, how long would it take before it was compiled and ready to be given to the news media? By the way, I was also a member of the news media, so it gives you an idea what kind of questions you're going to get.
Yeah. So, no, that's an excellent question. And so even if you vote on October 6th, come in for early voting, right? We don't actually tabulate that vote until 7:30 election night. And so everything is stored. We've got electronic storage. We've got encrypted USB sticks, essentially, that everything gets stored on. And then come 7:30, we're able to load everything into our server, which decrypts everything and then actually tabulates those votes. And then as all of our equipment comes back in from all the locations, we update that. And then I believe it's every 15 minutes after 7:30, we have to provide an update. And then until we've got everything in as of that night.
How long again was that? 15?
So we tabulate, so we tabulate at 7:30 p.m. on election night, and then every 15 minutes after that, we put out an update until we're done for the night, until we have all the information in from election day. So it doesn't really answer your question. If you vote, because we don't actually tabulate and actually count the votes until on election night. Everything is stored in secure digital files, and then we tabulate right there on election night.
One thing that I was impressed with the earlier system, and I only got to participate in the newer system once, but because of other commitments, but and also because election day was canceled for us at the primaries, so I wasn't able to work that day. And I found out at the last minute. I know it wasn't your fault, but how interesting was that? I'll bet for you.
That was really interesting. In fact, Jim Oddie called me to see if he could do an interview. I said, if you want to come and see a crazy screaming woman, come on down. But I was actually on the phone with Niraj Antani, who's a representative, screaming at him because I wanted the polls to be open because we were so ready. You know, when you've got everybody ready to go and then they pull the rug out from under you, it's not a good feeling. Because then it was like, oh, great, now what's going to happen?
And well, by the way, Jim Oddie he's been in the media for a long time. He originally worked in Columbus as the legislative reporter for WHIO. Well, I think he had his own company. And WHIO hired him. So he's heard a lot of screaming people. So,
he didn't come down, by the way.
yeah, I believe it. Did I hear correctly that it is illegal in Ohio to harvest vote ballots? To harvest
Yes.
ballots?
Yes.
So nobody can go, and just so everybody understands here what that means, it means that you can't go to your neighbor's house and say, can I take your vote in?
Correct.
That's what it means, basically?
Yeah. Vote harvesting is a process by which groups will attempt to solicit ballots from people and hand in the ballots that they think will promote their party or their issues. That's why it's so dangerous.
Right. The early in-person voting days you had mentioned when people can start voting was what, the 6th or?
Yes.
Was it the 6th? Okay, good. By the way, Gladys has prepared a document for our members, and she sent it out to quite a few members who, to all our members, I guess, who were sent this Zoom link. And if anybody else needs it, I'm sure we can get it for you. Just contact the, go to our webpage and go to a Contact Us form and fill it out. And we'll be happy to send you any documents. How can one find out if you've received my ballot request?
Adam, go ahead.
Yep. So on our website, there's actually a tracking tool right there on the home page, or a link to our tracking tool on the home page. And so we actually have a really quick turnaround time from when we receive the ballot or the ballot request, and then it gets logged into a system, and then we upload it every night as they get tracked. And so if you go to our homepage, the easiest way to get there is just mcsafevoting.com, MC as in Montgomery County, and then that'll take you to our homepage. And then under the voters tab, we have track mail-in request or ballot, and then you just search your name. If you've got a common name, which I see there's like 4 Peter Hesses on this, which I wouldn't have thought that would have been that popular of a name. But, just, filter out by your address, and then it'll let you know if we've received it or not. And then the nice thing is, too, is if there's an issue, right? So if you left your birthday off, it'll tell you that your birthday's not on there. And then you can call in and then give us that information. So you don't have to worry about receiving a call, getting a voicemail, getting a letter, anything like that. You can take care of that issue all right there.
Okay, don't see any hands up yet, so I'll continue until I see some hands, and so we'll get, somebody else can take a chance. Let's see. So everybody's received a letter, as far as you know. Everybody's received a ballot request form, and all they had to do was return it, or a card, so they could follow the process, and they would find out how to request a absentee ballot. Can you, do you have any idea how many were returned and how many are false mailed, or any kind of a number that you can give us for returned mailings of those?
Yes, just hold on one second. Let me check something. 7.8 million people in the state of Ohio got the ballot from the secretary, got the application for an absentee ballot from the Secretary of State. So every registered voter in our county got it, and that is about 368,000 people received it, and we're up, let's see, 90%. 90,000. So what's that, 25%?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a lot.
It is. That's a great return on a direct mail piece. And also, you might have gotten other ones because other entities, the Ohio Republican Party, the Ohio Democratic Party, some of the candidates sent out their own absentee ballot letters and applications, and we process those as well. And we've got a lot of duplicates. So if you filled one out, that's all you need.
Okay, all right. I filled one out, and we can find out by going to a website or calling in and saying, "Did you get it?"
Right.
Okay, that's good to know.
Do you want me to check it for you now?
Sure. Track me.
Okay. Last name Hess, first name Peter.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, it was processed on August 13th, and you will be in the first batch to go out next Tuesday.
Okay. That's sooner than I expected. I didn't expect
Yeah.
the. And how many batches do you think? I gather there's a certain number per batch that you're sending out.
Well, this one has 90,000 in it, so we're downloading the data the night before with the mail house, and then after that we have a mail absentee mail schedule that's also on our website, so candidates can send their pieces of mail, they call it chaser pieces because they're chasing the absentee ballot.
Gladys, did you have a question? I saw your image come up. Okay, it must have been ambient sound that caused that. Okay, next question. There's been some controversy about drive-up absentee ballot drop boxes. I gather yours is going to be on probably 2nd Street next to the parking garage.
Ours is on Vista View, which is between I-75 and the administration building. On that side, because we couldn't put it on 3rd Street or 2nd Street because of traffic. We did have it on 3rd Street, but there were so many people utilizing it, it backed up traffic, and because of that, we can't have it on a lane where cars are. So people can park in the back and drop off their ballot at the one drop-in box.
Okay, Vista View is right adjacent to I-75?
Yes, and if you go on our website, there's directions to it and a map.
Okay, all right, that's good. And are there any?
A question, not on ballots themselves here. I guess this would be more to you, Adam. But what do you do to keep the computer system safe for you and all the people that are working in your office? You have like specialty stuff that you do, as opposed to what would happen in Columbus and other things.
Yeah, so no, that's a great question. And so, we have a lot of systems in place. Obviously, we've got a firewall, we've got virus protection, we do scans, we have a nice thing that we have. It's called a SIEM server. This is actually new to me. I'd never really worked with one until I got here. And what it does is it takes an audit log of every single piece of equipment that we have, and then scans that after the fact. So just in case if something got through, that scans it. The main thing that we really try to push though is user knowledge, right? And so, the employees that work here, if they're opening up emails that they shouldn't, if they're following links that they shouldn't, stuff like that, it doesn't matter how great of protection, how great our protection is that we have in place. It's just not going to, it's not going to stop it. But, we've locked it down as about as good. I don't want to get into too specific of what we've done, but we've made it to where it's very inconvenient. Not impossible, but inconvenient to get on and do everything. You kind of got to take that extra half beat because, you got to go through the processes of everything. But, everything from, passwords all the way on down, everything's logged, tallied, protected.
You actually know if somebody might hit a bad link in an email.
Yeah, so depending on what it is, we've got various things that'll throw up flags. Yeah, I'm sorry, say that again, Edwin.
Like, let's say it looks like it's from one of their friends, and they send them a link, and then they hit it, and it's actually not their friend, and it's a virus or something meant to, hack your system.
Yeah. So there's different products that we have, and so one is, it's called like a malicious domain blocking system. And so what that does is it controls any kind of internet traffic or anything that goes out. And so it doesn't just, like blanket block set sites, right? Because that doesn't really matter, right? So we don't really care if somebody's going to ESPN or to Facebook or something like that. We don't want people, just like you said, downloading something they shouldn't. And so a lot of times what you'll see is when you go to those sites, it'll have something embedded into it. And so you'll have like a PDF or something on a site that has an executable or some kind of SQL injection that downloads onto your computer and creates havoc. And those are the types of things that it's looking for. And so depending on how they go about doing it, whether it's opening an attachment, we've got one tool that'll catch that. If it's going to a different link, we've got a tool that'll catch that. If someone is just trying to ping the computer, right, or the external IP address, we've got a system that'll catch that. And so what you have is, you don't have just like one great wall, you have all these different layers, because you have to try and catch everything. But even with that,
looking for things that are spying on your system.
Oh, 100%, and 100% of the time, yeah.
Wow, that's neat.
Yeah, you end up going bald pretty quickly, though.
I'm there.
Yeah, me too. Adam, have you heard anything about computer voting, which you can share with us?
I'm sorry, say it again, computer voting?
Yeah, have you heard anything about computer voting that you can share with us?
No, we're getting some feedback here.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna mute everybody, and I'll unmute you. I hate that.
I can just unmute myself.
Yeah, you can unmute yourself.
Okay.
We get let me make an announcement. Folks, we have some nasty ambient noise from the meeting room. One or more people have computers on at TJ Chumps. And if you need to ask a question, that's fine, but the ambient noise is just really disturbing. So, okay, go ahead, Adam. I asked you the question, have you heard anything about computer voting which you can share with us?
So a little bit, right? And so really I just know kind of what's in the news, and then some other products that have kind of been tossed around that I know people are kind of working on. I think the most famous story was it was in Iowa during the primaries. They'd actually developed an app, right? I think it was the Democratic Party within Iowa had developed an app to do some voting, and I'm not going to say it necessarily didn't work. I know they had a lot of issues with it. It was a good learning tool. I do think eventually, with the way that things are going, right? Eventually everything's going to embrace technology. What you'll find is the government tends to be kind of behind on everything on purpose, just because when you're on that cutting edge of technology, right, it's new for you, but it's also new to know how it can be exploited, right? And so sometimes you don't know how things can be exploited. So I do think eventually we'll get there. I don't know how quickly it's going to be. I do know that Microsoft is, working on various things, with computer-related voting and ballot tracking and things like that. So something will probably end up happening down the road, but it's nothing that I see for, I would say, at least a decade, if not longer.
All right. Is somebody able to bring their absentee ballot to their normal polling place or to any polling place? I see you shaking your head, Jan. Okay.
No, they
No,
can't.
cannot.
No.
So their choices now. What is the late now? If they mail it,
Hmm.
then there's a grace period of so many days after the absentee has been mailed.
Right.
Will the box that you have on Vista View, I think you said,
Hmm.
is I understand that's under video surveillance.
Right.
Okay. What is the latest somebody can drop their absentee ballot in that box
7:30 p.m. On November 3rd.
at the same time that all the polling places close?
Correct.
So if they haven't dropped their absentee ballot at that location, or I assume they can drop it off at the if they want to go in, they can drop it
Hmm.
off at the desk at the Board of Elections.
Right.
But those are the three options: the box, the
Right.
Board of Elections desk, and drop it in a mailbox of some sort.
And it has to be postmarked by November 2nd if you're dropping it in the mail and received within 10 days of the election.
Okay, good. I'm glad that we have that. Um, this Can we talk about the way the system at the polling place identifies voters who have requested an absentee ballot? Because there seems to be some controversy created by a politician about what if you've already mailed in your absentee ballot.
Right, right. If you've already requested an absentee ballot by mail, go with your request and vote your ballot that we're sending you. Because you can go to the polls and vote, but you'll vote a provisional ballot. And what a provisional ballot is a ballot we really can't count right away because we're not really sure if you did fill out that application at home and maybe you did mail it in and we're going to receive it within 10 days. That's a possibility. So we have to wait on that to see, to even process what is a provisional ballot. And processing a provisional ballot is a very timely, time-consuming process for Board of Elections staff, and it just takes up a lot of time, not only here at the end, but also at the polling location itself.
Now, if and the reason why I even brought it up is because I think it's an interesting system. If they've requested an absentee ballot, and also if they've not voted downtown, okay, then that shows up on our screen at the polling place that they've requested an absentee ballot.
Right,
And so their options are to either vote through the ballot they'd received in the mail
right,
or vote provisional. Those are the
right,
two options, okay?
right.
Now, there's another sheet of paper that we receive on people who had voted downtown
Right,
before the polls closed the day before.
right. And that's the supplemental list.
Right, right.
And before you used to, I don't know if you remember, Peter, if you picked it up, it was like, what, did you get one like in a file and it was just like a list of people, names and things?
Right, it's a typewritten list of just names.
Okay, so
Basically.
Adam, you want to address what we do now, which is so
Yeah,
nice.
so what we do is we have a thing called an iSync. the products that we use at the polling locations are all Apple products, so it's pretty much their version of a USB. And so what we do, myself and my counterpart, we load all of the supplemental lists onto that iSync, and then first thing in the morning when you open up the poll pads, you put your iSync in there, and then it updates that way. So rather than having to check on the poll pad, right, and you see if they come in, you don't then have to then double check a piece of paper to make sure, like, oh, well, did Peter Hess come in? No, he did not. Okay, now you can go. Now it's just all in one location. And the nice thing is it takes, it's since it's not, over any kind of like broadband or anything like that, it's not taking up any kind of bandwidth. It's just a direct connection. It loads, and then it's good to go.
Good. That does make it easier because I'll be honest with you, some people forgot to look at that sheet of paper. Some of the
Well,
newbies.
sure, when you're busy and you've got voters in line, we know that as election administrators.
I unmuted us. That's what you wanted.
Okay.
Oh, you did unmute?
I just
Somebody have a
unmuted.
question? We're unmuted. Who? Does somebody at the meeting room have a question?
Muted. It'll affect your sound. Incoming.
Oh, yeah. Is your sound on or off?
You got sound on.
No, my sound, the speaker's on,
Your speaker, your microphone is on, Martin.
and my microphone is not.
Microphone
My
is on.
microphone is on.
Okay, unless somebody has a question, I'm going to mute everybody and then unmute.
You can tell right here.
All right, that fixed it. If someone's, let's see, I lost my place. I had a question. Let's talk about signature mismatches. People's, in the computer industry, and Adam, I'm sure you know this, and Jan, you've probably heard this too. It's suggested that you use different passwords for different products. Well, the problem is that people have seemed to have thought that they need to do that for signatures too. So they don't remember the signature that they use when they registered to vote. So their signature when they come in and sign the pad, when they're placing their vote, it's a scribble. It doesn't resemble two things. It doesn't resemble anything that looks like a name. And the other thing is that it doesn't nearly resemble what they had used when they registered. So I gather every time you register, every time you change an address, I had requested a different mailing address for my ballots, and I had to sign a new registration form for that. So I gather every time you sign a registration form, that is the newest signature that is going to be used in the system?
Yes.
Okay, so as you get older, are you recommending that, and as you change your signature style, are you recommending that maybe people re-register? Even
Well,
if they're
there is
staying at the same location?
there is, Peter, a voter registration signature change form that's on the Secretary of State's website. So if a person's signature has changed dramatically or they want to change it, they can do that as well. Or, we're used to seeing people's signature change as they age, and we can see that as election officials. But yes, there is a form, and that is an area where probably needs some work, some help, because like you said, the scribble.
Yeah.
That's why we ask for ID.
Well, the nice thing about it is the software has a way that you can erase what scribble they put on there and say, look, let's try this again, and we give them a hint as to what the signature looks like. It looks like your name. Can we make it look more like your name, please?
Right.
And then they give us.
Think about it's like my mom when she was about 85 had seizures and her signature because of the drugs she was on got worse and worse as time went on, and trying to get her to update that at her age would have been hard to do. I mean, I could have helped her do it, but
Sure.
you almost need help to help people overcome issues once they've had a seizure or something like, stroke or anything like that, where they're used, it affects their writing hand.
That's why she has a good son like you to help her.
Well, she passed away a few years back,
I'm
but
sorry.
yeah, it's good to know that we could change it though, is my point. But you still need to have somebody young enough to, understand the computer and to get on the site and to do that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Because she had an issue with that one of the last times she voted.
Ah, was she denied or what? What was the
No,
issue?
no, they, because I came in with her and we had the
Uh-huh.
same address, they allowed it, but because of, it didn't look flowing like her normal.
Right, and we're very forgiving with that, and we certainly understand.
And that's good.
I think it's one of those things that too it's a case by case basis, and
Mhm.
so part of what we have is we do have a bit of software when stuff's coming in from the street with absentee mailing that'll compare signatures, right? And so if there's an issue, it kicks it out, and then that's when it goes to the human element, right? And then you get a person that can compare. And then a lot of times, kind of like, what Jan said, or, Edwin, your example with your mom, and things are going to get worse. And so, and sometimes, what I've seen is like, it'll get a little shaky, but it still has that overall resemblance. And Peter, kind of like what you were saying, like it just kind of needs to look like your name, and it's, and sometimes you just need to have that human that puts the eyeballs on it, because if it doesn't match, exactly, then the system's going to kick it out, or it's the the PEO, the poll workers duty at the polling location to make that call. And but everything we do is all about service, and really, and anything we can do to serve the voter is what we're going to do. And I know that's something that Jan is excellent about doing, with sending people out. We've done training classes, and for people in nursing homes, we've actually made, people that work in the nursing homes election officials, so that they can vote their residents there. So there's a lot that can be done. It's just a matter of, but Edwin, to your point, like someone does have to get in touch with us. We do have to know about this stuff. Even though, we do have those relationships already established, but we still have to know.
A couple things about ID that is not allowed. ID required. It doesn't have to be a photo ID, although it sure makes it go faster when you're working at the polls with a photo ID. But IDs that are allowed are utility bills, as long as it has the correct address and your name on it. And explain the others. I know those are the most common that we get, that we allow. One
Right.
that we do not allow is a passport.
Right.
And the reason is because there's no address on the passport.
Right. You can pretty much in the state of Ohio, you can use any government issued article that has your address and has not expired in the past 12 months. However, with this election, because of COVID, if your driver's license has expired, there's an exemption now that we will accept expired driver's license through the end of the year. You can you can submit a check from a job, but a lot of times they're electronic. So most people, I guess, Peter, you can speak to this better than I can, probably just show you their driver's license. I know when I'm here voting, people downstairs, they just automatically pull it out, their driver's license.
And
And
that
we can
is,
scan, and we can scan it too, which is really a nice feature on our new equipment.
oh, the new equipment has a bracket that you
Yeah.
put the driver's license in, and it's the correct distance away.
Don't you
have
love
to-
it?
Oh, that's terrific.
It's
You
just
don't-
that those little things,
Yeah.
that really make your life easier.
Well, that's a
Well,
big thing.
I've got to go. So if there's any last minute questions,
Yeah, I would think Adam can probably help us with the one that I have here. Before you go, Jan, do you have any advice for potential voters, Ms. Kelly?
let's just everybody really try to be kind to each other. And if you have any questions for anything, check the primary source instead of the media. There's a lot of hype out there. There's a lot of political positioning, and that is just makes our job so much more difficult here because people are so jaded and, they just don't believe anything. But please, give a call here. We've got your back and we've got every way possible, that you want to vote practically available now other than driving your ballot out to you. And we're trying to make it as easy as possible for the voters in our county, but there's also voter responsibility. So make sure you fill in the oval completely on your ballot, fill in all those questions that are asked if you're asking for us to do something, and make sure, follow the directions like they told you in school. If it tells you to put a forever stamp on it, put a forever stamp on it. Don't call and say, oh, can I put less, and complain about, something else. We do the best we can with our voters, and would appreciate everyone's cooperation. People's nerves are pretty tight, I would say, based on the phone calls that we get here.
One more question, and that just came up. Have any precinct borders changed recently?
No.
We had
And the
that happen
reason-
once, and that messed things up a lot.
It will happen again after the census. So we'll be looking at that again, and that's a big job.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we had a lot of people coming into the wrong location, but well, that happens all the time. But but especially then, we had a lot of people coming into the wrong polling place, and there is a way that electronically we can find, if they give us their correct address, which polling location they're supposed to be at. And
Yes.
we used to write down the address. And in fact, sometimes if we knew where it was, we'd give them directions on how to get there too.
Right.
So there's that possibility. I think that's it. Adam, did you have anything else you'd like to add?
Actually, I noticed that a question came in over here on the side. One person that asked how Clark County compares to Montgomery County. I can't really speak to Clark County. I don't know anything about that. I apologize for not being able to give any info on that. Another one is how is a change of address handled to make sure there's no duplicate voting. So we've got a cutoff of October 5th for voter registration changes and people to register to vote. And that's when the voter registration gets locked down. And then that's why, Peter, I think it was August 13th when your ballot request was processed.
Mhm.
But that's why we wait until October 6th to send it out, because your voter registration could change between August 13th and October 6th, right? And so that's how that's handled. And that's when we have that, that's why we lock down and then send the ballots out after that.
We
Outside
had
of that,
we had
Yeah,
another
I'm sorry.
question that
Yeah.
came in on chat. Is how does the change of address handled to make sure there is no duplicate voting?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's kind of what I was just kind of talking to. And so it goes up until October 5th, right? And then any registration changes up until then, and then after October 5th, starting on the 6th, that's when we send everything out. And so that's how we handle that.
So there are options of voting if they don't want to go to their old polling place, which is technically illegal. Then the other option would be to vote downtown
Yes.
if they haven't sent in their change of address in time.
Right.
Okay. And I gather that I'm correct. It's technically illegal for them to vote in the wrong polling place for their old residence, in other words.
Correct.
Yeah.
They have to vote in their current registered address where they lay their little head down at night to sleep. That's where
Right.
they have to. That's where they have to vote.
Well, and part of the reason for that, or the main reason for that, is that there are precinct choices to be made.
Well, sure. Taxes,
liquor-
levies. You
liquor-
want people that live there. Liquor, liquor
Yeah.
options. Yeah.
There's so you want it to be accurate and reliable.
Absolutely.
Representative of the people who live there, like you said.
Exactly.
Okay, I think that's about it. The only advice that I have is the former mayor of the city of Chicago said, "Vote early, vote often." Mayor Daley, the first Mayor Daley said that.
That's so bad, Peter.
No, I think he really meant make sure you vote every year when there is a new ballot. I think that's really what he meant.
Let's hope so.
Well, Thank you very much. It's
Thank
been my
you.
pleasure. I don't see any other questions. I think we've covered everything in the chat, and I don't see any hands up. Thanks again, folks. Adam and Ms. Kelly, thank you for participating with us.
No, good evening to everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too. Bye now.